Hi, this is Marty Grimes with Santa Clara Valley Water District, and thank you for joining us for another episode of The People Behind Your Water. And this month we're going to be exploring one of our flood protection projects, the Lower Silver Creek project, which is in East San Jose, and I'm standing right in the creek right now, and we're going to be interviewing three project engineers who've been working on this project for some time. We have Nelson Gonzales and Dennis Cheong and Scott Katric, and they're very enthusiastic about this project, and they're getting me excited about it too. We're going to see some parts of the project that have been done for several years and what it looks like today, and then parts of the project that are under construction right now. So stay with us. So I'm here at the bottom of Lower Silver Creek, and I'm here with Scott Katric. And Scott, thanks for coming down to the creek with us. What's your role at the district?
I'm the engineering unit manager of the Coyote and Pajaro Program Support Unit.
Okay, so that entails what, maintenance and other operations?
Yeah, we oversee the operation and maintenance of the creeks in both Coyote and Pajaro watersheds.
That's a lot of land you cover most of the county, right?
It's a little bit more than half of the county, yes, and it's probably about 150, 200 miles of creek that we maintain.
Wow, that's a lot. So this is a flood protection project, the part of the flood protection project that was completed about 10 years ago. And can you just talk about what was done here? We can show some photos of what it looked like before, and you can talk about what was the project, what did the project do here?
Well, before this project was constructed in the early 2000s, this was simply a trapezoid channel with grass-lined banks, and there was a tree here and there, and the creek always has water. It's groundwater fed, so it always has water. So you have some greenness around the bottom of the creek, but mostly this time of year and the rest of the summer, you had these sort of dead grass slopes that wasn't that attractive. And so when we planned this project out and provided the funding for it, we were looking for opportunities to add some habitat value and get something going that the neighborhood would feel connected to. So what you're seeing here today is the bank behind us is willow trees and other types of native vegetation that was planted after the construction was completed. During construction, we widened the channel. On the opposite bank is a floodplain that shows some wetland values growing, the mugwort's growing. It looks really nice this time of year, nice and green. But then we also have a maintenance road, and then we have our grass-lined slope on the other side with a flood wall. And behind us is kind of a berm that helps keep the floodwaters from going into the adjacent park.
So Scott, this is the people behind your water. So we also want to get to know you a bit. How long have you been at the Water District?
I started at the Water District as an intern in 1987.
Okay, so you were 4. And what were you doing at that time?
At that time, I started off in our flood control design as a student intern, and my first project was the Corps' Lower Coyote Creek project. So I spent the first 3 years of my career working on that. And then after that, I moved on to the downtown Guadalupe project and worked on that several years. Got the first phase of construction completed there, and the second phase started. And then I moved on. I moved into our hazardous materials group. And then after that, I actually left the district for a couple years and tried some other avenues. But I really enjoy working on the creeks. I love creeks. I love fishing. And so when I was gone, I really realized that this was the place for me. I really enjoy what we do. I feel like I have the ability to change creeks to what we're seeing right here. I feel like I had a big influence on how this creek shaped out, and I have a lot of ability to shape the other projects that are moving forward, and it really is the right spot for me.
So it's interesting to me when I see projects being designed and proposed in the neighborhood, takes a look at like a cross section of what it will look like. When I came here today, it really looked like what those design pictures looked like. So you're really good at predicting what it's going to look like after it's done. But what I'm wondering is, what are some of the aspects that you have to take into consideration when designing a project? Like, why a maintenance road? Why a flood wall? there's slopes, there's all kinds of factors that you consider, and it's different for different projects. So what kinds of things are taken into consideration?
Well, the biggest factor we're looking at is long-term maintenance. When we construct a project to provide the 100-year flood protection from the residents, we really need to do a good job at looking at future maintenance and try to minimize it. So this facility, we have this bushes behind us which need to be maintained because we can't let them encroach into the waterway where the water needs to get by during a flood event. But what we've done is we have one maintenance road on this facility. Before we upgraded it in the 2000s, we had a maintenance road on each side of the creek. And so we kind of sacrificed some of that easy access so that we could have this riparian value here. So we have a maintenance road on the other side.
What's the maintenance? What are the maintenance roads typically used for?
Well, if a tree falls down on this side or falls into the creek, we bring our crews into that roadway. If there's a sediment removal that's needed in the bottom of the channel, then we can stage from the maintenance road. We can get all the way along the creek from the maintenance road. If there's trash or debris that winds up in the creek, then that we can stage from there. And like with this footbridge right behind us, we do get shopping carts thrown over the bridge, and they're very difficult to get out of the creek. And so if we had to go over a fence or around a neighborhood or come from the local bridge, it would be very difficult. So the maintenance road gives us the ability to get there quickly and manage the creek in its entirety.
So just standing here at the bottom of the creek, we're here in the summer, and you said that all the water here, this doesn't dry up because it's groundwater, but then in the winter during the biggest storms, this creek could rise up to the level of these flood walls.
That's true.
Hopefully not quite that high.
That's true. Generally, when you look at flood walls or levees, you can imagine that the water during a 100-year event is going to be about 3 feet from the top of them. So, I mean, where we're standing right now, that means it's probably going to be about as tall as you and me above our head. So it would be a lot of water. And I think that we haven't had any really large storms since this went in, but I would venture to say the water's been a few feet over our head half a dozen times in the last 10 years.
Okay, and that last 3 or 4 feet, we have a special technical name for that.
Yeah, it's called freeboard. It's a factor of safety. In order to be taken out of the floodplain, FEMA requires that we have a factor of safety, and that is a guidance from them, and our board has set that guidance for it. So on our projects where we have flood walls or levees, we have 3 feet of freeboard.
And where does that 100-year number come from? Why 100? Why not 200 or 500?
Well, the federal government set that standard so that the residents that are adjacent to creeks know that they're vulnerable to flooding during any type of flood event that's up to a pretty extreme event. And it's on average, it's an event that happens once every 100 years. And so they set that mark to say, if you're within that area of influence, then you're at risk and your home could be damaged. And so they require the public to have flood insurance if you're potentially damaged by floodwaters that could come from an adjacent creek. So we designed to handle that kind of a flow so that people that live near the creek can stop having that mandatory requirement on their mortgage insurance. Now, we still recommend that people carry that flood insurance because you never know if we get a larger storm, like bigger than 100-year.
But I understand the premiums will be a lot cheaper if they're not in the floodplain.
From what I understand, there's a reduced rate.
Okay, Scott, we're now standing here in Plata Arroyo Park, and you were telling me that when we built this flood protection project, there were aspects about the park that you had community input on.
Yeah, we had several community meetings, and we met with the community and met with the city, and we tried to come up with a plan that would offer recreation next to this habitat restoration that we were planning. And what you can see as a result of it, we have a flood wall down here that separates the park from the habitat features, and then down over here we have more of a berm with the oak trees. These are all brand new oak trees planted near the same time as what was planted in the creek. And so we met with them several times, and we tried to meet them in the middle to offer something that they would be proud of in their neighborhood.
So this berm here has a walkway on it, but it also is part of the flood protection?
Serves as a flood protection, right. So it's maintains, as you can see, if when you look at it, it has the same elevation as the flood wall here to keep the water in the creek.
Okay. And then it's connected to the pedestrian bridge, which was raised and lengthened.
Right. During the construction, we determined that we had to widen the creek, and the existing bridge there wasn't long enough, so we replaced the existing bridge with a longer span, and also we had to raise it to get it over the water surface. And so it is a new bridge, and it offers the adjacent community the ability to get over here without going to the local busy streets, McKee and Kings, pretty busy traffic there.
So a lot of people in the neighborhood cross here. Is there schools or whatnot that people have to cross from one side?
It's a very large neighborhood over to the east of the park.
Okay, so the idea is that there, which we did, we built this area that now has a beautiful habitat and natural trees, which wasn't there before. So naturally, we would expect people would want to take a seat and enjoy it.
Right, and as the engineering professions change, I think that we have people with vision that say, we want to bring people to the creeks. And before we had some trees, a few spotty trees here and there that, decades ago, we systematically removed those from the creek. And, the new way of moving forward is we want to try and open the creeks up, which means right away we need more property along the creek. But we're planting some value in the creek so people can actually, when they cross over it, they pass by it, or they sit next to it, they really feel like they're in a creek. And, before the project that was here before, it was pretty much a grassline channel. And some people might feel connected to it, but certainly when you start getting trees and you see birds and other wildlife, it just feels more of a connection to the creek.
So before our project, when it was just this kind of unattractive channel, it would have been laughable to situate a bunch of benches facing that eyesore, really. And now, it seems totally right to have those benches facing this new habitat-filled creek.
Right. And if you have a chance to walk along here, you'll see that the benches are worn, the fences are, that you can sit on are worn. The park's heavily used, and it's really joined the community together in this area, and that they feel ownership of it now.
That's great, and it's great that the community had so much voice in what was going to happen to their neighborhood.
Right. I think that our outreach efforts have really changed over the last decade, and that we really want input like that. And, fortunately, we have a park like this next to the creek where we actually can open the creek up and provide this kind of, natural condition so that people can enjoy it.
So our projects nowadays, the way the Water District constructs them, it's multi-objective. It's not just flood protection, but we're trying to not only provide amenities for the neighborhood when possible, but habitat value for the environment?
Yes, truly that's the direction we're going, and we've been going in that direction for a lot of years. It's a tough transition because when you put trees and other habitat value in the creek, there's other risks and other potential flooding risks. If some of these trees go down in a big storm, which they do, they're going to wind up by a bridge or potentially blocking a culvert. And so we have to be on our toes, and we're adding potential maintenance. But really, it is the way we're going, and we just have to. The engineers have to be creative. I mean, it's really telling engineers it's not just about hardening and getting water out. It's how do you incorporate habitat values, and really. Our engineers are taking on that challenge, and we're moving in that direction, and we have been for a while, and we're getting better at it.
And I think this particular project is a great example of how it looks about 10 years later, after we've been through a neighborhood and created a project. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, we, as I was telling you, we met with National NRCS, National Resource Conservation District, when President Obama announced that they were going to put together stimulus funds, and we brought them to this exact location, and we showed them what we had done and how we had put habitat value back in the creek, and we took them to another downstream location and showed them how much we've improved the creek atmosphere, and then we took them upstream where the creek was basically a grassline channel, and they were very impressed with how we've moved forward and offered a different type of flood protection. And so they went back to Washington, D.C., and as you know, we've got over $20 million from the federal government to build the next phases of this project. And, personally, I'm excited because a project that we thought wouldn't get done in my career is now getting very close to being done. And so one of the selling points that we had during that discussion in the field was we're in a section of town where the average income is lower than most of the other parts of the county, and that these are the people that need the flood protection the most, and that they can least afford the flood insurance requirements, which is thousands of dollars. And so that was part of the selling point is, look, if you can help us build this project, we're going to take this lower income area out of the floodplain, and then they won't have to have that as part of their monthly bills.
That's a great benefit. And so the feds came out and they saw this project 10 years after it was built and decided, we want you to do what you did here upstream. Continue on. Let's finish this project. So now we're going to go upstream from here, where we're going to interview Dennis Cheong, who will tell us about the construction that's happening right now. We're looking at the east foothills over here, and we're Highway 680's over there to that side. And you are a engineering unit manager, but you're really overseeing this project. And you're an engineer? You're a civil engineer?
Yes.
And how long have you been at the district?
About 23 years.
Okay, 23 years. Tell us a little bit about what all you've done here at the district.
I used to be assistant engineer starting at the district and then became an associate engineer. I've been working on the projects through planning and design and also overseeing some of the construction before I became an engineering manager.
Okay, so this is an important project. Why is the Lower Silver Creek flood protection project so important?
A lot of people are in the floodplain over here, so this is one of the priority projects by our board that actually approved this project.
So when was this project approved? When did it start?
I believe it starts way back in 2003, okay. And I was not on the project then, and got constructed all the way to 2006, and then they are short of fundings, and so this project got stalled for a while before it got reinitiated again in 2009.
And what happened in 2009 to reinitiate the project?
2009, you were aware the president had the ARA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, that actually provided $20 million to this project.
$20 million
Yes.
For this project from the recovery funds.
Yes, and then in 2 years ago, we also get additional $25 million from the DWR Prop 1E fundings too.
Okay, so state funding from the Department of Water Resources.
Yes.
So more than $45 million. What's the total cost of the project?
The total cost of the project is going to be more like $70 billion. So it's really helpful for that $45 million to come in a timely manner.
And where does the rest of that money come from?
It's going to be from the district property tax, volume tax, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned that this project is protecting a lot of properties that are at risk of flooding in this area from this creek. Yeah. How many properties?
Right now, the estimate is about 4,000 homes and businesses that's going to be protected. And currently, these 4,000 homes and businesses are actually paying flood insurance. So one of the goals, is to remove these people from the floodplain so they don't have to pay like a couple $1,000s a year on their flood insurance anymore. So that's the goal.
Okay, and floods can be so damaging. Do you have an idea how much the financial cost is of potential flood in this area?
I believe it should be more than at least $70 million, And not only just dollar values, we are talking about also inconvenience to the businesses. Streets will be flooded, a lot of people will be, under inundation. So it's not just financial part of the project that's important.
So this is not a creek that maybe everyone really even knows exists. It's, it kind of runs through town. So it starts over where it runs into Coyote Creek is beyond 680, or where's the confluence?
It's close to 101. Okay. That's where it drains into Coyote Creek. But the end of Low Silver actually goes all the way up to Lake Cunningham.
So you start at the confluence with Coyote and you work your way upstream. And can you explain why that is? Why do you start a flood protection project?
I always explain it the way like a freeway. You just like you have congestions. Yeah. You don't want to build a 4 lanes upstream and then you have a 2 lane downstream. So you always do a 4 lanes downstream, or so that the traffic when they come from northbound or southbound, you actually have a wider freeway downstream. So just like a creek is the same thing. You want to do it from the downstream to upstream, or else you're going to tend to flood other people upstream of the project. Yeah.
Okay. So downstream, when it started, you made the analogy of adding lanes. Is that kind of what you did? We did down there is just widen the creek.
Yeah. Here, that's what we did. We pretty much widened the creek, not only just for the flood protection, but we want to widen it so that also we can put vegetation back into the creek so that we can improve the environment. You don't
Great.
see the current, what you see out here is already a constructed section, but you haven't seen before it was constructed. It was a very narrow ditch, we call it, and there's no vegetation and no habitat value at all. The way we have designed is going to be so much wider that actually we can put vegetation back into the creek.
Even in this section right here we're looking at?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about this area. The creek is widened, but it's widened we have concrete walls here. Why was that necessary?
That's because this would necessitate the more areas so that we can plant more trees. That's why. What you see here is just a finished construction on the structural part. So when they're done with the structural part on the flood wall, they're going to come in and actually lower the road a little bit more and actually make the road smaller. Then you're going to have at least 10 or 15 feet of area that this fall they're going to start planting trees. So when you come back next year, you're going to see a lot more greeneries.
So it actually will look more like a natural creek than it did before?
Yeah, that's true.
And this project has been really successful to the point that Vice President Biden mentioned this project as one of the 100 projects that's changing America. So that's quite an honor and quite a statement that this project has been well designed and well built. Is there any other aspects to the project that were really a result of community input?
Yeah, well, community they are very concerned about few things. Number one is the graffiti. What you have here is not a completed project yet because the input from the community is that they're concerned about the graffiti. So what we have changed in our design is actually we're going to put vines that grows along the wall just on the freeway. So therefore, right now you do see the graffiti, but once the vines grow in, hopefully that will deter graffiti. The other thing is they're worried about noise and about dust. So what we did is actually we restrict the construction period from 9 to 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And also dust, we do have water trucks that comes, once in a while to make sure that we don't create a lot of dust.
Yeah, I noticed that we had a water truck here earlier this afternoon, so that's good. So have you had a lot of complaints from neighbors?
No, so far I think the neighbors are very appreciative of this project, and so far they are enjoying and liking it.
So, we had a great groundbreaking for this event, for this project. You had a groundbreaking event that brought in some pretty heavy hitters. Who was part of that event?
There were city council members, there were district board members, and then we have
Secretary Vilsack.
Vilsack, yes.
He was the Secretary of Agriculture.
Yeah.
And why was the Department of Agriculture a part of this project?
Because they are one of the partners actually managing the ARA fund, so we actually, manage the funding part through NRCS.
They're our federal partner in this project, and that's how we've gotten that federal funding.
Yes.
And they've been really pleased with this project. I know they've been champions of this project.
Yes. So far they have been out here too, and they are really impressed with the progress of the project.
So Nelson, this is a really big civil construction project. I know it's millions and millions of dollars, and several hundred people have been working on this project and will be continuing to work on the project. How is it compared to some of the other projects that you've worked on at the district?
This is one of the biggest projects that I've worked with. It's in my 11 years here. This is about $26 million work of construction. And it's also the longer one that I did. It's a three-year construction period. And so, and I think this also being in the east side is really shows the community that we do care for them. And so a lot of the people here and actually that I met during construction are very happy that we're doing this.
That's great. So they realize that this is going to be a benefit to not only the folks that live here, but upstream near Lake Cunningham, where a lot of the people live in a flood-prone area.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, once this project's completed, we'll be so happy, and not just for the district, but also for the people in here. Yeah.
All right. And you said you've been at the district for 11 years, and you've always been in the construction management unit?
Well, 10 years. The first year I was working in the design, so then for the next 10 years I'm here in construction.
And your background is in civil engineering?
Civil engineer, yes. Yeah.
Great. You like your job?
I do.
What do you like about your job?
I think what I love about my job is being able to work on something that when it's done, you can see it. When you drive around town, I live in San Jose, and to be able to see, yeah, I worked on that, and I feel proud that we worked on that, and knowing that some of the challenges that was faced in building that, I think that's one of the most rewarding part of my job, and also the people that I work with in the district. They're dedicated and really great people to work with.
You better stop. I'm tearing up. It's a great place to work. All right. So there you have it, the Lower Silver Creek Flood Protection Project, which is just one of the projects that we have going on in our flood protection mission right now. We also have been doing many projects over the years. In fact, the Santa Clara Valley Water District has removed more than 97,000 parcels from the floodplain since the early 1980s. But there are still more than 60,000 parcels in Santa Clara Valley that are in the floodplain. So we have a lot of work to do, so stay with us for future episodes of The People Behind Your Water, and we'll cover some of the other flood protection projects that we have planned for the future. So thank you for joining us.